Students, in this part of the lecture, will discuss the topic authentication. In most of the computer security context, in context of computer security, user authentication is a fundamental building block and the primary line of defense. Is a fundamental building block and primary line of defense. Now suppose this is a system and there is a user, and the user wants to access the system. So before accessing the system, before accessing the system or logging into the system, the user must be authenticated. Therefore, we are saying that authentication is a primary line of defense. So this is the very first step where we can provide security to our system or our resources. It is the basis why authentication is important, because it is the basis for most types of most access control, that is accessing the system or controlling the access of the system, and for the user accountability and for user accountability. Therefore, we are saying that this is the basis, or this is the fundamental building block of a computer security. But now the question is, what is authentication? What is authentication? So it is a process. So authentication is a process of verifying or verification an identity that is claimed by the user or for a system. The identity of an user which is claimed by him to access the system, to access the system. So what is authentication? It is a process of verification, or it's a verification process which will verify the identity of a user who is trying to access this system. Here in our example, the system could be the computer system, or it is a file system, or it could be a database management system, etc. This process, that is The process of authentication consists of two fundamental steps. The first step is the identification step. Identification step, whereas the second step is the verification step. Verification step. Identification step is the step which is presenting an identifier or ID to the security system. Presenting an ID, that is the user ID, to the security system. Security system. Whereas the verification step is presenting or gathering or generating the authentication information, authentication information or authentication data. So by using these two steps, or these two steps will be involved in the authentication process. Now we'll talk about the means of the authentication. That is, what could be used for the authentication, what or which type of data we can use for the authentication or authenticating a user's identity. So basically there are four general means, there are four general mode or means of authenticating a user's identity. User's identity, which can be used alone or in combination. The first is something the user or individual knows. The individual or the user knows, such as password, or a personal identification number, which is PIN, personal identification number, or PIN, or it could be answers to security questions. Answers to security questions. The second means of authentication could be something the individual possesses. Something the user or individual purchase. For example, means will have or must have, such as electronic electronic card, electronic key, memory card, smart card, or any physical key. Physical key. Next, we can use something the individual is. Something the individual or user is. That is the characteristics of the user. These characteristics could be either static characteristics of the user, or they could be dynamic characteristics. In the static characteristics, such as fingerprint, retina, or the face of the user. Whereas the dynamic characteristics could be voice pattern, or a signature, or a handwriting pattern. So these means could be used in the authentication process. Okay, this is number 3, or this could be number 4. That is, for the authentication process, we can use the information that the user or individual knows, such as password, PIN, or predefined answers. Or we can use something that the user possesses, such as electronic key or memory card, smart card, or any physical key. Otherwise, we can use the static characteristics such as fingerprint, retina pattern, or the face pattern of the user, or we can use the dynamic characteristics like voice pattern or signature or the handwriting of the user or individual. Types of authentication. Based on the means which we discussed in the previous slide, broadly there are 3 types of authentication process. The first is token based authentication. The second could be bioinformation or bioinformation based or biometric authentication. Biometric authentication, and the widely used and the most popular is password based authentication. In the token based authentication, the object such as a smart card or the memory card or smart card are used for the authentication purpose. These objects like a memory card or smart card are also known as token. So that's why the memory card, smart card, or physical key based authentication is known as the token based authentication, in which the user will have a card, memory card, or smart card that he or she will use to authenticate his or her identity. In biometric authentication, the user's identity is authenticated based on his or her unique physical characteristics. Unique physical characteristics. These physical characteristics, as we discussed in the previous slide, could be static or dynamic. In the static characteristics, we could have a fingerprint, hand geometry, facial characteristics, retina, or iris pattern. Whereas in the dynamic characteristics, we can have the voice pattern or a signature of the individual. So, what is biometric authentication? Biometric authentication is the process in which the individual's identity or user's identity is verified based on his or her unique physical characteristics, which could be static or dynamic. Static characteristics includes fingerprint, hand geometry, facial characteristics, retinal characteristics, or iris pattern, whereas dynamic characteristics includes voice pattern or signature. Now coming to the last one and the most popular, which is password based authentication. It is widely used and virtually all systems such as multi-user system, modern operating systems, all modern operating systems, web servers, etc. are using the password based authentication. In the password based authentication, the user will provide a user ID and a password, which is set by him or given to him or her by the system. This could be a predefined one time password, or it is a fixed password or permanent password given to him by the system. The widely used password security technique that is used in modern operating system is hash password, or more secured hash password or hashing password, which is more secure. Now coming to the password based authentication system used in Unix operating system. Password based authentication in Unix based system or Unix operating system. When a new password is given or loaded, new password is assigned. In that case, a hashing algorithm is used. Hashing algorithm is used, or hash function is used. This hashing algorithm could use DES or MD5 algorithm. Most of the Unix operating systems are now using MD5 algorithm. To this hashing algorithm, a user password is assigned. This password is either set by or selected by the user, or it could be system defined. Along with this password, a salt value is also given to this algorithm. This salt value in modern system could be a pseudo random number, any random number. In the previous Unix operating system, the salt value could be the time at which this password is being created. But now in the modern system, this is a pseudo random number. So when this salt value and the password, user plain password, plain text password, plain text password is given to this hashing algorithm, it will produce a hashed password. Hashed password, which is almost impossible to be cracked or read by an intruder. Then this hash password is stored in a file, which is a password file having user ID, the salt value, and hash password. Hashed password. So user ID along with the salt value and hash password are stored in a file, and that file is password file. Password file. When a particular user wants to log in into the system, the user will supply his or her user ID. That user ID is used to index his or her entry into the password file. From that password file, the salt value is taken or retrieved along with the uh, this salt value is taken and it is given to the hashing algorithm. Hashing algorithm. This hashing algorithm is also provided the password given by the user at the time of login. Given by user at the time of login. I'm repeating the last few lines. When a user wants to log in into the system, the user will supply the user ID and a password for the authentication process. The user ID is used to search or index his or her entry into the password file. If it is found, Then the salt value which is stored for him is given as an input to the same hashing algorithm. The algorithm is also provided the passwords given by the user at the time of login as an input. As a result, the hashing algorithm will produce the hashed password. Now, this newly produced hash password is compared with previously stored hash password. I'm repeating, the newly generated hash password is compared with the previously stored hash password. If both are same, then the user is allowed to log in into the system, otherwise rejected. If both the password are same, then the user is authenticated or his or her identity is validated. Otherwise, error message or a trapping message is displayed to the screen, that is the user is authenticated or his or her password or user ID is not valid. This is the authentication process, that is a password based authentication process used in Unix Linux based operating systems. Hope the concept is clear to you. If you have any question or doubt, please do write to me. We'll take some more examples. Till then, thank you very much. Keep reading.